Hey everybody, it's Anna and welcome back to my booktube channel. This video is going to be my Geekly wrap-up for the week of April 27th through May 3rd. As I'm filming this right now, it is Star Wars Day, so may the Force be with you, Harry, said Gandalf. Yes, I am doing the Vulcan salute on this because I am that person. But I hope that y'all are having a really happy Star Wars Day, or whatever day it is when you end up actually watching this. I think in a channel first, actually. I'm filming this at night because I had tried to film this earlier during the day, and despite the fact that quarantine is still going on and you would think I would be less busy because I don't have a bajillion places to go to, I've actually been a lot more busy than I think I ever could have anticipated. So I've got my tea here because it's late at night. Again, if the lighting is a little weird, a little fuzzy maybe, just imagine that we're sitting down next to like a cozy little outdoor fire, just talking about our books. That sounds really nice. Whenever I feel like I need to take a deep breath, I also feel like it's my job to remind everybody else around me, hey, you should probably take a deep breath, because I figure if I'm stressed, probably other people are stressed too. So here's your reminder. Take a deep breath. Just let it all go, and we are going to talk about some books that I read this week, the one game that I played 5 times, and some other geekish experiences that have been going on lately. So most of the books that I read this week were actually ebooks, so I have my Goodreads up on my phone just so that I can keep track of all of the titles and authors since I can't actually hold the books up. So the first book that I read was Kingdom of Souls by Rena Barron. This is a YA fantasy novel that is set in this Afrofuturistic world that is very heavily based in the mythology and lore of the Orishas, which I believe is a West African mythological tradition. And I thought that this book was pretty good. I did not love the plot or characterization, but that is usually my reaction to a lot of YA fantasy. It's not a genre that I tend to have really standout reads from, even though I read a lot of it. But I really did like the world building that the author did. I think that we definitely need more diversity in fantasy world building. We need more fantasy worlds that are not totally Eurocentric and are not populated entirely by a cast of white characters. So I think that this book is an important book. I just didn't think it was like a favorite of mine, but I did enjoy reading it. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Speaking of fantasy, that's one of the first geekish things that is kind of related to books that I did this week. I actually got to be on my first panel ever, which was super awesome. The folks over at the subreddit r/fantasy, which is this online community of people that are fantasy readers, writers, and fans of all stripes, asked me to be on a booktube panel with a couple other really amazing booktubers that you may have heard of, like Thoughts on Tomes, or Murphy Napier, or That's So Poe. So that was really awesome, getting to be on that panel and talking with some cool people about booktube stuff. Also, and Jerry from Onyx Pages was on that, and I freaking love her channel. So yeah, if you are also looking for more Afrofuturism and Afrocentrism in your reading, check out Njeri's channel because that is exclusively what she reads. You'll get great book recommendations from her, and she is awesome. If you're interested in reading the stuff that happened on the panel, I will leave the link down below since it was done in the style of a Reddit AMA. It's just there as a thread on the subreddit for anybody to read, so you can go through and see what we had to say about books, reading, our favorite fantasy stuff, all those kinds of things. And before I forget, speaking of Njeri, that reminded me because I did the Quarantine Pages read along with her today. So this is, if you haven't heard of it yet, which I kind of knew what was going on, but it wasn't until Aaron told me about it that I actually went, oh, I should probably go do this. It is basically a silent reading read-in, I guess, that takes place via Zoom. It's hosted by a bunch of different booktubers. They actually got mentioned by Stephen Colbert when he was doing his reporting from home for the week. And it's basically a silent reading party. If you've ever been to a read-in event or something like that, this is totally virtual. It's free. I will leave information linked below, but every single day of the week has a different booktuber that's hosting it. And it's really kind of a lot of fun, just knowing that you're reading in companionable silence with other people. So check that out if you're interested in some silent reading companionship. Okay, then we go to, well, first we're going to take a break for some tea. Ow. Got a tea bag stuck in my teeth. It's fine. Week 9 of quarantine, this is where I'm at. It's fine. So we go to the physical book that I read this week, which is Disfigured on Fairy Tales, Disability, and Making Space by Amanda Leduc. This is a nonfiction sort of memoir, sort of deep dive into the cultural traditions of Western fairy tales and the way that fairy tales in the West represent disability, disfigurement, bodily difference, etc. This is by an author who has cerebral palsy. She is Canadian, and she talks about her experiences growing up. There are a lot of, obviously, like, triggering content warnings for bullying and ableism and, you know, all of the sort of things that she writes about that she experiences as a disabled kid who then grew up into a disabled woman, obviously, and she examines a lot of these pivotal moments in her life through the lens of fairy tales. There is a lot of talk in particular about The Little Mermaid because both the Disney film and the original Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale are like texts that really resonated with her, and she actually talks with and interviews other disabled authors and activists and like prominent people within that space about their own relationships to fairy tales and what it is like when oftentimes the only person with a visible like bodily difference or difference of some kind in a fairy tale is the villain. There are a lot of great organizations that bring awareness and attention to this. If you're interested in this topic at all, I'd highly recommend this book. I'd also recommend that you go check out Jen Campbell's channel because she is also a disabled YouTuber that makes videos about books, especially like with the history of fairy tales. And I know that she's read this book, so I will try and find the video where she talks about her thoughts about this book and leave it linked down below because I think there is probably some crossover between people who watch my videos and people who watch her videos. And if there's not, you should check her out because she's amazing. So I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Let's see, what did I do next? Oh, okay, here we go. So I have a little bit of a like context to give, I guess, for this book. This next book is called Tiny Pretty Things, and it is co-authored by Danielle Clayton and Sonia Charipotra. So this is a book that I didn't know existed until I think I randomly found it on my library because I was looking through the Libby app, and basically it was described as Black Swan meets Pretty Little Liars. Now I haven't read Pretty Little Liars or anything like that, but I freaking love Black Swan. Like, as I have mentioned before on this channel, I used to dance for many, many years. That being in like the dance studio world was a big part of my growing up. I absolutely love dance. But I am also, because I grew up in the dance world, very much enamored with the dark, traumatic, and messy side of the dance world. Fortunately, that was not something that, like, super duper negatively impacted me since I was never trying to be, like, the best person in the class. I think I auditioned for the competitive or the show team, like, one time, didn't get it, and I was like, oh, well, that's fine. I'll just keep going to my classes and, like, dancing for fun. But this book is... It's a YA story that is essentially a horror story that is all about the sort of descent into total bitchiness that happens when you have this cadre of like really competitive, really young and inexperienced girls all trying really hard to be the best at this American ballet school. It's kind of loosely based, I think, on New York City Ballet and that program because it takes place in New York, but it's not actually like a real life ballet school. So this follows 3 point of view characters. We have Gigi, who is a black girl that moves all the way to New York from California because she wants to be studying at this best school. We have Bet, who is the sort of bitchy, waspy girl that she was originally the queen bee and she got all of the lead parts in the ballets before Gigi arrived, so naturally she hates Gigi's guts. And then we have June, who is a mixed-race Korean-American girl who is at the ballet school and has been having some difficulties with her friendship group and also with feeling like she is going to be stuck being an understudy for the leading roles for the rest of her life. She's also trying to figure out who her father is because she doesn't know anything about him, but she's beginning to suspect that he might also have a connection to the dance world. Before I go any further with this book includes all of the trigger warnings because it's horror. Major trigger warnings for graphic descriptions of eating disorders, self-harm, bullying, gaslighting, racism, because a lot of this book actually does really deal with the race problems that the ballet world really has. Like, ballet is very white. It is very, like, traditionally a very white enclave. There's a lot of racism and colorism specifically that can go into the world of dance and stuff like that. Yeah, there's like scary horror stuff that happens. It's a lot of like psychological horror things as these girls are kind of playing mind games with each other and trying to see who's going to be the first one to break and who's going to rise to the top. This might sound like it might sound like it's kind of a stressful book for me to be reading right now, but honestly, I fucking loved this book. Like, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars because I know, like, it's not the best written book necessarily, but I couldn't put the story down. And I especially think that this is a good example of the way in which horror is a perfect medium for exploring like social problems, because I don't think that I have ever seen a ballet or a dance horror that really deals with the racism and the sort of like don't ask, don't tell mentality of certain like ballet organizations, especially depending on what part of the country you're in. I mean, I think it's a bit easier to be like out as a professional dancer now, especially because there is this stereotype that like all the boys that do ballet are gay, which isn't true, but like that still doesn't mean that everything is like easy for you if you are a queer person in ballet or a queer person in dance, as we see through one of the side characters, because she's a lesbian and she is terrified that anybody will find out. So yeah, this book is really fun. I'm reading the second book in the series already. I sometimes cannot believe how like catty and horrible to each other these girls are, and I'm not like saying that I advocate for that, but I really love reading this book. It's like, it's reminding me of a very specific time in my life where like I remember the good parts, but also, boy, I'm really glad that I am not still there having to deal with the bad parts, because those parts were bad and they weren't even as bad as this book. I'm just like, whoa. Also fulfills the challenge of reading 30 books by Black authors this year, so there you go. I'm like balls deep into the second book in the series, so I'll let you know because I'm probably gonna finish that sometime this week too. Okay, next up was the first book. This is actually a novella. It was like maybe a 30-page novella that I read. This was the first thing that I read for the Asian Readathon, which is happening for all of May. TBR will be linked somewhere up here if you haven't seen that yet. But it is Circus Girl, the Hunter, and Mirror Boy by J.Y. Yang. Once again, they delivered a totally perfect, fully fleshed out world in a really short amount of time. One thing I'm continuously amazed by that J.Y. Yang does is their sort of economy when it comes to creating a world that feels fully lived in and fully complex with not a whole lot of words to describe it. I really admire that about their writing. I wish I could be that clear and like that evocative in anything that I write. I thought that this was fantastic. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It has a lot to do with sort of like latent themes of queerness and gender. There's some magic stuff. There's some weird science in it. I don't want to say too much about it because the book is so short, or the novella rather is so short, that it might give away bits of the plot to talk about it. But if you are looking to try out J.Y. Yang, or if you are into like weird speculative stories, I would highly recommend this. I think it's like 99 cents from Tor or something like that. And then the last book that I read this week was STEM, an Autistic Anthology, which is edited by Lizzie Huxley Jones. This is a collection of mostly British autistic people that wrote like essays or pieces of fiction, or in some cases submitted some works of art for this anthology. A couple of whom I actually recognized from YouTube, which was kind of cool. Obviously, this is a topic that I'm interested in as an autistic person myself. I thought that this book was good and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I'd recommend it if you're interested in the topic. Yeah, there's not too much else to say about that. It's just I'm glad that we are getting more anthologies of this type and more disability representation in books that are actually written by disabled people. And so those were, along with the fairy tale book, those were 2 books that kind of were carrying over the momentum from the Disability Readathon. Okay, and then Sean and I played Architects of the West Kingdom 5 times this week. A lot of times. I didn't even put the expansion back on the box because we literally have not cleaned the game up. We just keep resetting it on the table. This first night, this Monday, May 4th, is the first night in a week that it hasn't been on our table, and that's because we're playing a different game. But hoo boy, I still love this game. Even after I played it 5 times in a single week, it's still amazing. I feel like I'm playing it on a different level now. I feel like I'm playing it in a much more meta way than I was before, especially because it turns into this weird 2-person chess game, psych out the other person, freak them out mind games kind of thing. I probably shouldn't do that because it's hurting my neck, which is kind of fucked up right now. It's fun. It's fun dealing with pain. Oh yeah, but there is one last thing that I wanted to mention before I get going that is games related, which is if you had not seen my announcement video for this previously, I am actually playing in a lot more tabletop RPG streams online. So we have the Guards game that I play in, that's a D&D game heavily inspired by Terry Pratchett over on Encounter Roleplay. We are actually about to wrap up that campaign this Wednesday, which I know it's don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened, but I'm probably gonna cry a little because, let's be real, I get attached to characters and I like making new friends through games. But the good news is that if you haven't watched it or if you've missed any episodes, we have all of our videos uploaded to YouTube a couple days after the live stream, so we'll link to the playlist down below. There's another longer term campaign that I'm playing in that's called Dead Winter. That's a game that is the City of Mists role-playing game. And I'm playing that over on Chromatic Chimera. That one is the same thing. That one does have live captions for the Twitch stream, and then we have community contributions on both of the channels for closed captions for that. That one is a little bit more of a detective noir, superhero noir style game where everybody has a character that is the embodiment of a particular myth or legend. So for instance, my character is the embodiment of the Jewish myth of the golem, which is this giant clay creature that comes to life and protects people. We have a Baba Yaga mythos, we have a Van Helsing mythos, we have Kuchisake Onna, which is this Japanese ghost legend, and it's fucking terrifying. And then we have someone else who is the mythos of the fairy tale of the 2 cakes. So if you like weird fairy tale and mythology retellings and watching us sort of make our way through these detective plots and things like that, check out Dead Winter. There will be a playlist for that linked as well down below in the description box. And I think that's it for this week's Geekly wrap-up. Please let me know how you're doing down below in the comments. I really hope everybody's doing okay. I mean, I know that this is now going into the 10th week of doing this pandemic thing, and I'm getting really burned out. So, still trying to keep up with doing things that make me happy and that I enjoy. So I'd love to hear about what are the things that are making you happy or the things that you are enjoying right now. That can be books, that can be a TV show, it can be whatever you want. Just let me know in a comment about that. If you like this video and you'd like to see more of what I do, go ahead and subscribe to my channel because that is the best way to get updates every time I post a video. As always, thank you all so very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!